Hi, I'm Jack Cush, Executive Editor of RheumNow.com. I'm coming to you from San Francisco in the annual ACR meeting where Artie Cavanaugh and I just finished doing Rheumatology Roundup, a well-attended event where we cover a select number of abstracts from the meeting. You can see the whole presentation by going to the ACR website and going to Session Select to actually view the whole presentation. But I thought I'd give you a synopsis of a few things that I presented at the meeting that were, I think, fairly interesting to most of the audience. First was two important new studies, randomized controlled trials in giant cell arteritis, one with tocilizumab and another with abatacept. Both of them showed efficacy, in if not a steroid-sparing effect. The tocilizumab study was presented on a 31-patient cohort. Two-thirds were randomized to tocilizumab, but one-third randomized to receive placebo. Everyone received high-dose steroids that was de-escalated over a 16-week period. And in the end, better remissions and fewer relapses in those that were on tocilizumab. Both groups had a high amount of steroid toxicity. Carol Langford presented her data, a late-breaking abstract, also on abatacept being added to patients on steroids, high-dose steroids for giant cell arteritis, and showed the same effect with relapse-free remission or relapse-free status being achieved in 48% on abatacept and 31% on placebo. So again, important studies that might allow us to avoid steroids in the future. Next was a very interesting study, again a small study of 21 patients with recurrent refractory pericarditis. This was presented by an Italian group at a plenary session where half the patients were randomized to receive anakinra and the other half placebo. So all patients, all 21 patients, received anakinra for 60 days, and all of them responded very well within a matter of days. All of them were able to go off their steroids within 6 days, and after 60 days, they were then double-blind randomized withdrawal. So half stayed on the drug of anakinra, the other half went off. And not surprisingly, flare rates were very high. 9 out of 10 patients on anakinra, 2 out of 10 on placebo flared off of the drug in that blinded phase, suggesting a very important and significant clinical effect for anakinra when given as a usual dose, 100 milligrams sub-Q once a day. The toxicities were mainly injection site reactions in 20 out of 21 patients, otherwise fairly well tolerated. And as you would expect, all the other usual things happening with anakinra and successful treatment, reductions in acute phase reactants. So an important study at a plenary session. My last set of abstracts actually have to do with diet. There was a number of different interesting abstracts on diet, one in rheumatoid arthritis and one in gout, both showing the same thing, that if you're on an anti-inflammatory diet, meaning a prudent diet with vegetables, fruits, low animal meats, low-fat dairy products, that you actually have a lower rate of developing rheumatoid arthritis and a lower rate of developing gout in two different presentations. Both of them also showed that a typical Western diet, rich in Big Macs and high salt and animal fat and high-fat dairy, had a much higher rate of developing both RA and incident gout. So two strong messages in favor of a prudent diet, less animal protein, more vegetables and fish and chicken, being protective against developing those two inflammatory states. And then lastly, there's a report out of Lars Klarskog's group in Sweden, which examined the influence of a high-salt diet on rheumatoid arthritis. They previously shown that patients who were smokers who are on high-salt diets have a higher risk of RA. In this study, they showed if you were on a high-salt diet and you're a heavy smoker, you had a higher risk of developing ACPA positivity. Speaking to the issue, both diet here and salt as being preclinical interventions that one can do to avoid serious disease. So that's it from the ACR. Make sure you consider going to RWCS, that's r-w-c-s.com, and look at the meeting that Artie and I are going to be at in February. It's going to be in Maui, February 10th through the 13th. We'll see you there.